Hi, I'm Ida, and this is Ida and Doris having coffee with my friend Robyn Nunnally. Hi, Robyn.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Robyn is a cool friend of mine. She is a colleague, and she has so many credentials. It's amazing. I don't know where to start. Thank you for all you do for our sport. It's amazing. She grew up in 4-H judging, rode hunters over fences, and rode everything she could in side saddle. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, does that mean you jumped in side saddle?
I did, yes. And it also means I rode side saddle quite a few things that probably really didn't need to be ridden side saddle, but I did it anyway.
Amazing, amazing. Then worked her way along to Arabs, has some national top tens in there. I think she said there was 10 of them, if I heard right. Worked her way into dressage, worked her way into warmbloods, the whole shamil, and now her credentials are absolutely amazing. She has a bronze medal in dressage. She's an L graduate with distinction. She is a C2 steward, a technical delegate for dressage, which that's amazing. Those are tough to get. And a large R Western dressage judge, which is where we became the most acquainted. And you're one of my favorite people. So I wanted to have coffee with you and share your cool personality and your stories with all of our friends. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
So let's put on our question hat to start and say, do you have a unique, weird, strange, odd, heartfelt story that could be a C2 story, like a steward story or a judge story, but about a horse show? Can you tell us something interesting or entertaining?
I'm going to tell you two stories. The first one is about judging. A few years ago, was teaching lessons, sort of up down beginner walk trot lessons at a barn in Virginia Beach. I did that for a while, and my go-to lesson horse was this super little Morgan pony. His name was Rocky, and Rocky was, I don't know, 110 years old probably when he was doing lessons. He was the best. Rocky was the absolute best, and I quit teaching lessons there, but they eventually had a little backyard show, little all breed pleasure show, and they asked me to come back and judge. It's a kind of show where you're judging from the center of the ring. And so, a few classes had gone in, and here comes some, little beginner walk trot. And here comes Rocky in the ring with his little, ponytailed rider, cute as a bug. And I said something to the ringmaster, and Rocky immediately trotted over to me in the middle of the ring and just stood there. And the little rider was mortified, and she was doing all the right things. She's trying to steer him, and she wasn't really kicking, she was
Like
flapping that
tapping,
leg.
little tapping.
And Rocky's just standing there looking at me, ears up, just as happy. He was actually kind of parked out a little bit, and he would not move. Rocky would not move. And so and I'm like, so great, what do we do? I mean, we had other riders in the ring that were, going around. And so anyway, eventually I went and stood on the outside of the ring to judge. And that worked for a couple of times around until he spotted me. And then he just came to the rail and just stood there. And so I had to get in a car and be like hidden from Rocky. But it's just one of those things.
Oh,
It's just, he was just the greatest pony. And the last I heard, he was like 40 years old, and he's not teaching lessons anymore. He's just retired, but he's still hanging in there. So, anyway, it's just one of those things when you're judging, you never know what's going to happen.
that
We
is
think
the
we're prepared for every situation, and
cutest story. I mean, that is just a heartfelt one. That just makes you smile. And don't we all know one horse like that? We just do.
you never know what horses are going to do. I mean, like I said, you think you're prepared and you've seen everything, and then bam, it's something new. But just recently, more as a TD, I had a rider contact me wanting to show at a show. She is a paraplegic, and she does not have feeling in her lower legs and feet. She is still riding, and she wanted to show at a show with her feet banded into the stirrups.
Okay.
Um, and so this is not allowed.
In Western dressage or in
This
dressage?
was in classical, but we're going to come around to Western dressage. Um, so I had to tell her no, it was not allowed, but it opened up a really great conversation between the two of us and made me do some research and explain to her things like presidential modifications that you get from USEF if you do need modified tack or something like that, or then actually becoming classified and getting your grade as a para rider at a licensed show. And they do allow adaptive equipment in
Yeah.
some cases. And we did find out that if she could get a para classification, you can ride with bands on your stirrups if they're Velcro.
Hmm.
But what it caused me to do, it's going to take her a while to get all the pres mods and things that she needs. And she's got a license show coming up. So I researched for her wide footbed stirrups, which was something she wasn't aware of, and non-slip stirrup pads.
Right. Right.
Those are just things that she had no experience with. And she has tried those and they have worked. But it made me start thinking, okay, in Western dressage, we don't have the para classification. So what do we do? What would I do as a judge or as a steward if this question were presented to me that way?
I'm so used to the presidential modification in regular dressage, and I guess I thought that that was a USEF thing.
It
So
is.
if
It's
someone gave me one of those papers in Western dressage, because I do this so much in regular dressage, I would be like, yeah, because when you said she needed bands on her feet, I was like, yeah, she just needs the paper. As judges, for all of you that don't know about this, when we sit down and someone comes in with adaptive equipment attached to their paper, their test is a paper that shows their presidential modification from USEF and what they're allowed to have. Some people can have two whips. Some people don't take their hand off the rein to salute. Some people have bands on their feet holding their feet in the stirrups, and they have gotten this paperwork organized. So are you saying, like, if someone handed me a presidential modification for Western dressage, would that be possible now?
yes,
I thought so.
you can do a presidential modification, but Western dressage in the rule book on 102.14 in the Western dressage section addresses competitors that have disabilities, and they will be provided reasonable accommodations upon submission of written certification from a treating medical professional. So it's maybe a little bit of an easier process than actually obtaining a Presmod. I would still probably go through the Federation if you were going to do that. But it looks like Western dressage is a little bit more,
Accommodating.
yes, accommodating, I think is a great word, for
Right.
people that may need, some adaptive equipment or something. So I thought that was really great to see that. And because I just wasn't sure, until she asked me that question. I'm like, okay, well, what would I do if this were Western? So
Great.
there it is. It's in the rule book. So
We want to encourage everybody. So I'm glad you brought that up because we don't talk about it a lot. And we do have exceptional rider tests also,
yes.
which we do have some people come in exceptional rider tests, and those are really cool too. So opportunities there. Those are good stories. That's great. If we gave you a soapbox, Robyn, you know me, I have a little soapbox. I get up on mine once in a while. People know about the salute now, and they know
Okay,
about
yeah,
straight center lines. Man, I got a thing about salutes and straight center lines.
I know you do.
What would you say your thing is, either as a judge or a steward? What would your soapbox be?
um, I think as a judge, I'm gonna to talk about your salutes a little bit. Mine's a little bit different than yours. What kind of gets under my skin a little bit is when people come in the ring to start or finish their test and they have this wildly extravagant salute.
Yeah,
The
like a
rule,
salam or a bow or yes,
yes,
that's
yes,
not actually legal. That's not a just it doesn't match a description either.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The rule book clearly defines the salute and how the salute should be done. And so when I see people that are like bowing down, like really dropping their shoulders and bending over, it's not the correct way to salute. And you're also not giving your horse the best opportunity to remain immobile. If you want your horse to be still, which is how you're going to get your most points in your salute, your upper body should remain still. Do it quickly, efficiently, nod your head, pick up your reins, and move on. You don't have to do this flourish. You don't have to bow down to us. We're not royalty. Um, Although sometimes we may act like we're royalty. We're really not. But anyway, give your horse the best opportunity to remain still and on the aids and on the bit. So anyway, that's something when I see that, I always just go, oh,
Oh, please. Yes.
yeah.
Joanne Williams was chatting with me yesterday and said that she had been judging lately, and one of the things was that the newest thing this year seemed to be that people were saluting while the horse was still moving before they didn't actually accomplish the halt. And as a judge, we were talking about judging methodology, and she said, well, the test says halt. Then the next thing says salute, which means to her, she said, I justify it that it says halt first and then salute and then move off, and that I can it's appropriate to mark down A because they weren't immobile, but B because it says halt first and then salute. And you
Right.
didn't, and I thought, wow, that's a great way of looking at it. I
Mhm.
thought that was very good rationalization, but it's true. And she said, yeah, I think it's getting to be a thing. I said, maybe we can stop, maybe we can encourage immobility and halting before.
Right. And I have written on tests, must establish halt before salute.
Oh, that's lovely. That's a good comment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so so yes. And again, I think, if all of us, officials included, every once in a while, we just need to stop and read the test.
Yes.
We need to read the purpose of the test that's in the upper left-hand corner, and we need to read the directives for each movement, to call our attention to, exactly what we are evaluating in that moment. So all of us need those reminders.
All
Um,
all the time. Speaking of judging too, I did want to say you I didn't know you, and during the pandemic so many of us began showing and judging online, and that was where I met you and I became familiar with you. And before I ever talked to you or met you, and I don't remember if you remember me even calling you up and introducing myself, but you had judged me and so many of my students in online shows. And I wanted to say, I was so impressed with your judging. You were kind, you're efficient, you're a good judge. It's not easy to judge online. And way before I knew you as a person or met you as a colleague, I was getting the papers back going, this lady's got talent at doing this and she's good. And I really appreciated it. I don't think I ever told you that. Did I tell you that before? I really appreciated it.
no, I think you have said that. I really appreciate you saying that. But I think it's important for all judges. I think maybe competitors don't realize how important we take our education.
Yes.
It's really important for me to do continuing education. As you know, I've not been able to continue to attend the WDAA in-person sessions, but we have other resources that we can do as judges online. And I take that very, very seriously. And I also do continuing education as an LGrad. There's a lot of videos that the USDFL faculty does,
Yeah.
and they're great, and they're very relevant, even in Western dressage. So I think it's a great compliment, what you're saying, but I think most of my colleagues, we all try really hard to get it right when we're judging in person and when we're judging online. People are coming to us for our opinions, and we try really hard to be fair. We're
Yeah.
rooting for you guys to do well. We're waiting for you to give us that opportunity to give those 8, 9s, and 10s.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
looking for it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so for
my
that,
observation was that I know that online judging is not everyone's cup of tea. Not all of our colleagues really do it. Not everyone does it, and not everyone really, really likes it. And long before it was fashionable, you were doing a lot of it, and you're good, fast, and confident. And I thought you had a real talent for it. Do you see any real difference? Like, people ask, like, I know what I think about it, but they say, well, do you think there's any real difference or a different attitude or talent that you have for being so effective in online judging? Because I know there are people that are not comfortable with it and are not effective with it.
what I try to do when I'm judging online is when I watch a movement, I want to watch it one time and do my comment and my score, because that's the way that would happen if I were at a live show.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the chance to replay and do it again. So that's what I try to do. That being said, because I don't have a scribe, I do have to stop. And so that does give me an opportunity to rewind a little bit, and especially some things that come quick in test, flying changes,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Those are
Um,
tricky.
mhm. For me, like I always feel like I can't see a flying change as good on a video as I can in person. I'm not sure why that is, but I recently heard Janet Foy talked about judging in person, and then where she was judging, she on her flight home, she watched the videos and she judged again online. And her scores online were just a little bit lower than they were when she had judged in person.
Oh, interesting. Isn't that
Uh,
fascinating?
yes. So, and it was great that she took the time to do that. I mean, someone like Janet, you would think she would never ever second guess herself about anything like that. But I think maybe it's just the uh, something about the dynamics of judging live. Horses maybe look like they move a little better, or not exactly sure what it is. But I try to do my online judging just as if I were judging at a live show. Um, I will take time to look at my comments. I try not to be too repetitive. I try to maybe say the same things but use different words, because people hear things differently. You just
Yeah.
say it a different way or use a different word. I don't want to always be saying the same things. And that also takes a little time. And we also have more time to write collective remarks and final narratives when we're judging online. So it does take a lot longer to judge one ride. At least it does for me.
It does. It's tremendous. It's very long. Yes. And that's, I think, one of some colleagues' frustration is
Mhm.
that it isn't, is very time consuming, and the pay is not commiserate with what we receive live. So they become frustrated. And you just have to want to do it, and you have to like doing it. And the other thing is, I do not do it after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My biorhythm is I'm tired, and I get up in the morning, I do it while I'm fresh. And if for any reason something really disturbs, my concentration, something crazy happens, like the UPS man comes in and just about hits the dog or something crazy that upsets me, I actually stop
Mhm.
and I don't, because I I'm distracted by what's going on in the personal deal. And so, no, start over fresh tomorrow, you know, to keep it fair.
Mhm.
And
I did do an online show. This was a couple of years ago. And I really enjoy doing, seeing all the different places. I feel like when I'm doing online shows, I get to travel a little bit and see some, some people have just absolutely beautiful rings, indoor, outdoor, whatever. I mean, the backdrops are just amazing. But I was judging this show, and there was a horse I had never judged before, and there's some kind of trees in the background. So I'm in Virginia, and I'm like, okay, this is nowhere around here. This is way out west somewhere. And I went, this horse is really familiar. And as the test went on, I'm like, this is my own horse. This is my horse. And
wow.
I had a quite lovely Holsteiner mare at the time, and she was huge. She was 18 hands, and here she was on the screen. She had the same markings on her feet, her face. She was bay. She made the same. She did the same little, weird things in her test that my horse did. And I ended up reaching out to the show manager and saying, "Hey, can you just give me contact information for that rider?" It was my mare's half sister,
Wow.
and she had
Oh,
the farm had dispersed where she was bred, and that mare had ended up on a truck going way out west, and they had lost track of her. And here she was years later at an online show, and
and you
it
found
was
her.
yes, we found her, yes, and
And
she's
did
doing great, and she's had babies, and she's doing Western dressage now.
that is a very heartfelt story. That's just makes my heart expand.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing. What a
So
great story. Yeah. And the chances of that are just,
I know, crazy, right? But
yeah, great. But it's a small world. It's a
yes.
small world. Oh,
The other thing that would be my soapbox is would be rules, because being a steward and a TD, that is something that even when I'm judging, I can't turn that part of my brain off. So everybody should be familiar with this. Can you see that on the screen?
yes. Attire and Equipment Guide, the WDAA, and that is on the website. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yes. Go
So
to WDAA website and type in Attire and Equipment Guide. Yes.
and so not only should you print it out and be very familiar with it, go on the website every once in a while and re-download it to make sure that you're getting the most current version of that. And it has a lot of examples of legal and illegal equipment in that booklet. And as we discussed earlier, your final decision on tack and equipment will be made by USEF. And in the WD section of the USEF rulebook, which you should be using the rulebook app on your phone, it's super easy to use. There's also some pictures and really good descriptions of tack in there, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So use both of those resources to make sure that your tack and equipment is legal before you go to a show.
Good. That's wonderful. Okay, we only have a few more minutes, but
Okay.
in that short time, it's obvious that we're all passionate about WD. What's your closing thought for us? What would you like to share with us about WD that you think is really important to all of us?
What always impresses me when I go to a show that offers Western dressage classes, doesn't matter what role that I'm there in, I am always amazed at how supportive all the Western dressage riders are of each other. They hang around the ring, they watch each other show, they're helpful in the warm up. If somebody forgets their number, forgets their fly spray, there's always somebody trotting back to the barn to be helpful, to wipe down a horse, whatever. I think there is more of that in Western dressage than in any other discipline that I work in anyway. And I think that is great. They cheer each other on, and everybody's just so supportive. You can be competitive with each other and still be supportive, and I think they've really embraced that and done a super job with that.
Yeah, we talk about the culture of WD, isn't that what we're saying? Yeah, the culture of WD is friendly and inspiring, and isn't it fun to see like a mule and a pony and
Yep.
whatever,
Mhm,
and gaited horses, and
mhm.
it's great. It's a lot of fun. I do find our community very warm and reaching out to each other and cheering and so many unique breeds. So and just supporting all breeds, all colors of horses, all sizes of horses, people, whatever. It's all great. We're all having a good time. Yeah,
Mhm. And
yeah.
I've had to learn some things about different breeds, especially gaited horses. I've had to go to different farms and watch them and watch, some online resources to learn to make sure that I'm evaluating them, to the best of my ability too.
It's a challenge, but it's fun, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is for sure.
Thank you for having coffee with me. I enjoyed this,
Thank
and I'll
you.
be thinking about it. I hope you
Thanks
still
for
have a
bringing it
side saddle sitting around somewhere.
up. I may be able to ride side saddle. I doubt that I could ride a stride anymore, but I keep thinking I may be able to get on a side saddle sometime.
I'm going to be rooting for that, my dear friend Robyn. I enjoyed this so much. That was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.